Hello, welcome back to the fifth quarter of Football 301. We're going to recap week 17 of the Sunday slate, the sloppy Sunday slate, and the Saturday slate from this week. Already did the Christmas games, and with the Sunday night game is going on as we start this. The Commanders and Falcons are playing, and joining me to recap that sloppy Sunday slate is a Falcons fan, Mr. Forverts, Charles McDonald. How you doing today, Chuck?
Doing good. Got to have a very relaxing, peaceful week with family. It's here a little longer than I thought I'd be, but you know, it's a good time of year. It's a good time of year. We have this. It's funny because this weekend we were just talking about it. There wasn't a whole lot, by the way, of like interesting in-game stuff, but it still gave us a lot to talk about. I am fascinated by this journey for the number one pick, which just has a logjam of like 4 and 12 teams, 3 and 13 teams, as the NFL really just slogs its way to the end of the season.
There's a lot of bad. It's a wide open playoffs, but that means there's a lot of bad. We're going to talk about some of those bad teams and maybe some of those surprisingly bad teams and maybe teams losing to the surprisingly bad teams. But we'll get to that game in a little bit. Colts, talking about you. But to start off was a game between two really good teams that I think are true contenders. And that was the Packers and the Vikings facing off in an NFC North battle. Vikings take this game 27-25, control the game for most of it. Got an early turnover, didn't score off of it, but really controlled the game on offense. Sam Darnold had the most passing yards he's had all season in the first half, finished with 377 yards with 3 touchdowns and a pick. Aaron Jones was very efficient on the ground, had some nice catches through the air as well. Cam Akers got in there. Justin Jefferson did his thing. Jalen Naylor had a nice touchdown. That was a nice design. I'll talk about that. And Jordan Addison did his thing, 69 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Love was kind of shaky throughout the game. Vikings defense did some things. I'll get into that as well. Packers were really trying to run the ball. They just could not get any drives going, made a lot of mistakes until they kind of put stuff together at the end of the game, made it a ball game, finished as a 2-point win. Vikings closed it out at the end. Stayed aggressive, Kevin O'Connell, because he's a Sean McVay disciple through and through. Maybe my best prediction of the weekend was Kevin O'Connell will call it bootleg on the first play of the 4-minute drive. that is a McVay staple. He loves doing it. So I was like, yeah, KOC is going to do this. And sure he did. It worked. Man, thoughts, takeaways on this game. Vikings, another impressive win. Hold off the Packers at the end here, Chuck. But what do you think about this game?
Oh, man, I feel like the Packers ought to be kicking themselves after this game because even when it was when it was 27-10, like they had gotten to a point where they only had 10 points late in the game because like they were just so sloppy on offense. Like a lot of drop passes, misreads, like some sloppy, blocking up front. I thought like Love had an interesting game because I thought he was like mostly good, but there were a couple times where wasn't trusting what he was seeing or making some bad plays in the pocket that forced him outside the pocket, and then the field gets condensed, and that's where a defense like the Vikings can be really good and really dangerous. But it's like the Packers, they're definitely capable of winning the Super Bowl, but even like coming up short to twice to the Vikings like that, it does have to give you like some pause. Maybe they're just a slight step below than where they are. Sam Darnold went absolutely off today, like because the Vikings, like they weren't even running the ball that well. They weren't running the ball at all. Because they had a 27% success rate on the ground for the game, but 61 or 62 through the air for Darnold and Jefferson and Addison, who were just absolutely lights out today. And even like the big catch at the end that was called back on the Cam Robinson holding, like these guys are just absolutely locked in right now. It's funny because I remember like at the start of the season we were talking about the Vikings, like they're a good team, but maybe not quite like a Super Bowl contender. Maybe they're just like a hair below. But no, like this is a team that absolutely deserves to be the number one seed in the NFC if they pull it off. Yes. They're definitely of that caliber, and I think they've proved throughout the seasons by beating teams like the Packers and getting to this point where you're 14-2 going into the last game of the season. Like, no, this is definitely one of the elite teams in the NFL, and they showed it today.
It is. It's everything's lining up. Eye test, they look the part. They're explosive. All the underlying stuff that we look at, success rate, EPA, all that stuff, that's aligning to a team that looks like a contender. So there's not like where I'm looking at, I'm going like, these are empty calories, or like they're stacking this when they blow teams out. It's like they can run the ball. Even if it wasn't there today, it's better than it's been that they've had the last couple seasons. It's above the threshold that you need to get to be a true running the ball contender that I think. explosive through the air, multiple options. They can beat zone. They can beat man. They beat the blitz, which the Packers found out today that they can beat the blitz. We had definitely some emotional blitzing from the Packers end on a couple of those drives in the second half. And Darnold and Kevin O'Connell kind of picked at it a little bit. I just thought that no matter what, they had answers. And then, of course, the defense does well against the run. You can catch them, but over time, they've been really consistent no matter who they play against, which is huge because of how funky they are on defense, that you can't just jab at them, that you have to play really well throughout the game. And I thought this Vikings defense did, on our pregame show, our preview show, I made a whole big point that in the first game, the Vikings defense, Flores ran more zone coverage than he ever has in the game since he's been a Vikings defense coordinator. This game, on 3rd and 4th down, they ran man coverage every single time, which they have not done the entire season. They usually maybe run 1 out of 5 times, maybe 2 out of 5 times, on 3rd and 4th down. They ran it every single snap until the very end of the game when it was like a 3-score game, but then got tighter. And I thought that was a great changeup because they were just saying, beat us, Packers receivers, like that. And they just dared it. And if Love is a high risk thrower, if he doesn't connect on a couple, it gets really frustrating. They had the 4th down with a drop by Jaden Reed. They had illegal formation on another 3rd and 1 short yardage where the receiver was covering the tight end. Just a lot of mistakes from these receivers, but that's what the Vikings kind of did. It wasn't blitzing. It was, no, we're going to play you in man and dare you. And we're going to bring 5 and dare you. We're going to dare your offensive line to block up 5 guys and dare your receivers to win one-on-ones. And they got them. I thought they just did a really good job. On the other side, I thought Darnold just torched cover 3. I thought I was ready for all this cover 2. The Packers running cover 2 and it was working a little bit early. Then they just ran a bunch of cover 3 and Darnold shredded it. And that's what he did the first game. And I learned from it. Don't do this. And Darnold went 12 of 19, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns against cover 3. The Naylor touchdown was against cover 3. The Addison touchdown was against cover 3. The Addison touchdown was really cool. It was a double move. And I thought Brady was going to say it, but he didn't. It's called a squirrel route. So I was pretty fired up to see it. And a squirrel route it's a hitch and then you go. And that's what the Addison touchdown is. And you run it off a wrap concept, which is the hitch and a dig behind it. And everybody runs this. You saw the Bengals score a touchdown to Higgins against the Chargers on it, where they ran a dig and up. And you run that against quarters teams. Against cover 3 teams, like the Packers, you run the hitch and up. And it worked beautifully. And I geeked out about it because that's like one of my favorite double moves. And of course, the Vikings got to it and they got to it out of tempo. They got to the Naylor touchdown out of tempo. I'm just loving what Kevin O'Connell's doing. So I'm with you that I think this Vikings team is just, one of the best of the best. When I wrote them up 2 weeks ago, they were the 7th favorite. And I look at them way higher than that, especially after these wins that they just keep stacking up. So Packers side, just that the defense is fine, but it's not good. I just can't figure out how to describe them. I don't know if you feel any different about them.
They're not good enough, and I think that's the only that's the most important thing.
Are they good enough to win a Super Bowl? Do you think, or to make the Final Four? I should say that
to make the Final Four, probably. I just think that they're just too reliant on turnover luck. And when it doesn't happen, like
even today,
you only get 1 turnover, and the rest of the time, if you're not getting those turnovers, what they've shown is they're getting shredded, or they're not putting up good numbers for the most part. My brain always goes back to old Falcons teams that I grew up watching, but they kind of remind me of like those 2012 Falcons teams, 2011, where the defense was not good down to down, but they forced so many turnovers that you were able to get to like an NFC title game, which is maybe the path for this team. But
they also had one good pass rusher too. That's
one. The last time they had one,
but more than the Packers got.
That's right. Well, because that's the fascinating thing with them. They just don't get that much pressure, and it's something that they've invested in too, which means something's gone wrong. Rashawn Gary taking a step back. I think he had a couple of nice plays today, but overall, to take a step back. Lucas Van Ness hasn't turned out like they had hopes. So they've just gotten bare there. And when you're playing a lot of cover 3 against Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, a lot of those times they can turn into just one-on-one reps against defensive backs, and you don't have Jair Alexander. So no pass rush. your best quarterback's out. You're playing against maybe the best, like a top 3 wide receiver tandem in the league with Addison and Jefferson. So maybe when you start piecing together like that, this wasn't necessarily that surprising, but you should still note that, man, this defense is really reliant on turnovers, which we know can be kind of lucky and random to come across.
And it was just that I felt like they just got gamed up. Like the Vikings had just answers for it. Was just that they always just felt like they were a page behind. It was like, okay, we're going to do this now. And Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings were like, like, all right, we're going to do this now. They're like, ha ha ha, we're going to do this now. Like, they just kept feeling like they just got one up throughout most of the game. Man, yeah. I found the Jordan Love man coverage stats. He went 5-9 for 32 yards and got sacked once against man coverage. I just thought that was even when I wrote about it, I was so curious how Flores what tweaks he would throw in. Like once the playoffs kind of started, this felt kind of like a playoff game. So I was like, oh, okay. All right. Getting some man coverage. Last week, he did a bunch of 2-man against Geno Smith, which he hadn't done all season. It's like, all right, here are the wrinkles. Like that's why I just feel so good about this team. And then when Darnold throws it like that, yeah, I mean, just real good team. And then I still feel good about the Packers. It's like, just don't play the Vikings.
Right.
I feel good about them going against like the Rams or NFC South champion. Like I feel good about those teams. Eagles maybe, but I just that rematch from the Brazil game. But it's just like, don't play this team. I don't think a lot of teams want to play the Vikings right now. But nope, that's it for that NFC North battle. We're going to get to another NFC game that happened on Saturday. This is to wrap up the Saturday tilt. I think they called it something on NFL Network, like Saturday Showdown or Saturday. They wouldn't call it shootout. They dropped that kind of terminology, but was not a shootout. Rams won this one ugly. I enjoyed it. Not going to lie. I thought there was some good ball here. But yeah, Rams win this one 13-9. More or less clinched the NFC West. Stafford kind of had an up and down day, but finished with 17-32, 189 yards. Kyron Williams had one of his days, 59 yards, touchdown. Puka Nacua, though, I want to talk about Puka in a minute, but 10 catches for 129 yards, 0 touchdowns. Kyler had a kind of wonky day, some good stuff, but then kind of, the Cardinals kind of have been shooting themselves in the foot on 4th down a lot this season. And then also Kyler just has some off moments at the worst time. Had a literal headshot on Trey McBride, Call of Duty, maybe seeping into some of his play now, but that was a freaking straight headshot. The Trey McBride finished with 12 catches, and one might have been concussed off that throw, 123 yards. Got his first receiving touchdown, but I want to remind people, he has a rushing touchdown and fumble recovery touchdown too. So it's not his first touchdown of the season, first receiving touchdown of the season. Marvin Harrison Jr. finished with 96 yards. What do you think about this one, Charles? There's a couple things I want to kind of maybe detail here, or maybe focus on. But overall in this game, Rams take it. What do you think about this one on Saturday night?
Man, I was really impressed with the Cardinals defense. I thought they played a good game this week. It was probably one of their best games of the season. Because outside of Puka, no one on the Rams really did anything. It's funny. Puka Nacua had 129 yards, and Matt Stafford threw for 189 yards. So, and then there's Cooper Kupp with 1 catch for 29 yards. So there really wasn't much production out of the Rams offense outside of what Puka was able to produce. And it's just for the Cardinals, man. It's just like this is like the year you have right before you start becoming an actual good team,
a real boy.
They were, right, a real boy. Because obviously the framework is here, I think, for a team that could potentially even win the NFC West next year, especially with whatever state the 49ers find themselves after this offseason. But in this game, they just made too many mistakes, especially towards the end of the game. And it's like, man, you guys are so close, but you have the play where, like you said, it just hits him right in the damn face. And I just feel like Kyler is good for one of these every couple of weeks, where it's just like he's like within the same game, you can see why people think he's a great quarterback and why people are also frustrated with him. And
why you hear all the former quarterbacks on commentary go,
right. He's okay. Yeah, but all in all, for the Cardinals to get to 7-9 and you're playing this game, you're still competing after you've already been eliminated from the playoffs. That's good enough. This was a good game for their defense outside of, Puka Nacua just shredding them and doing whatever he wanted.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals need one or two more linemen, offensive linemen, and for sure one. I think that's what they should aim for in the draft as well. It kind of lines up. And then I think their defense needs two more guys, two more good starters. I think you can do that in the offseason. I think they're really on that kind of Dan Campbell Lions trend. That's really, I think, the path. Do I think they're going to be the contender of the NFC next year? No, but I think, like you said, that they're going to be double-digit wins. That's what I think they're going to be fighting for. I do think it's a good framework and everything. I want to get real quick into that Puka Nacua stuff, though. Talk about their how hyper-focused the ball goes to Puka Nacua. His target share, so how many targets he gets per route, is at 38.3% this season. Only one other player with 200. There's 192 players this season with 200 more routes. Okay, Malik Neighbors is the only other one above 30%. The league average is 19%. So he gets targeted twice as often as the average pass catcher in the NFL. And I wanted to kind of dive into stats here, and I want to talk about Puka because I'm starting to have to re-rank him in my head. I'm like, is he a top 5 guy in the league? Like, I'm comfortable saying top 12, top 14, but now I'm like, is he just elite as opposed to just very good? I want to get into more stats here, and this is where I'm really starting to recalibrate Puka Nacua. Okay, so this is all since 2014. If you can't tell, they're running a lot of good games on, by the way. As Scott Hansen called this, what do you call this? A depleted slate?
Low inventory or something like that?
Lower inventory slate,
yeah.
Is what Scott Hansen called it, and I cannot agree more. But this is since 2014 per True Media. Puka Nacua is first in explosive receptions per route run for a season. So that's gains of 16 yards or more. This is out of 2,047 player seasons with 200 routes or more from players. First in successful targets per route run. So that's a successful play. Second in first downs per route run, only behind 2023 Tyreek Hill. Only 5 players have ever had 20% or more in successful targets per route run since 2014. 2024 Puka Nacua, who's easily number 1. 2019 Michael Thomas. 2023 Tyreek Hill. 2020 Devontae Adams. 2019 George Kittle. Puka is the only one above 10% explosive receptions. Hill is at 9.9, all the rest around 5.5%. What he's kind of doing is low key one of the best receiver seasons we've ever seen. It's just that he hasn't played the whole season. He's missed some games. But yeah, I don't know if I just want to kind of open this conversation. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Are we now saying Puka, Nico Collins, Tyreek, CeeDee Lamb? Who else is he up there for you?
Wow.
Because I'm considering him at that tier now.
I mean, he's up there. The one that just made me think Puka versus CeeDee Lamb. I was like, wow, that's I think that's closer to my brain now than I would have said coming into the season. Because I would have said, I'm taking CeeDee.
That's same. You're taking CeeDee?
In August, if you asked me this in August, I would say, yeah, I'm still taking CeeDee.
Oh,
but I mean,
easily CeeDee. Yeah.
The cool thing is doing it back to back because we've seen guys lower drafted guys, probably more running back, maybe than wide receiver, where you come in, you have a hot rookie year, and then you're just kind of a guy moving forward.
Fall into that tier. Yeah, you fall into your middle tier, yeah.
Right. But with Puka, if you're doing this back-to-back years, and you almost have 1,500 yards as a rookie, your extrapolated numbers this year probably would have been around 1,500 yards, especially after today, because I think he's missed 4 games. He's on pace to play 13 games this year. So if you can do this back-to-back, I think you should probably belong in that elite tier because there's no data point that we have that suggests that you're anything but, at worst, a top 5 receiver at this point in the league, just statistically speaking. So now I think it comes down to what kind of receiver you like, because there's the top that you said where, it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Those are probably the top 3. And then there's tier cutoff. But I don't really see why Puka can't be the first guy in that next group after what he's doing this year, which is kind of crazy to say about a 5th-round pick who's only in his 2nd year, but he's absolutely one of the best receivers in the league.
I know. I've just been kind of, and watching him more, it's not just, last year, I felt a lot of it was manufactured, and McVay, you could tell, loved using him and how he used him. And, I, of course, felt he was good. He blocks his ass off. So, and you can tell he's smart. So I'm like, yeah, this guy. But I thought he was going to be like a hipster favorite. Like he's like a low end one, maybe with another guy. Like they get a replacement for Cooper Kupp. I still wanted them to get Brock Bowers so bad. But, could you imagine that? But that it was just, okay, that's where I had him tiered in my head. But now I'm just like, I think he's just elite. And it's not because he's dunking on guys. How he wins, like the catches he makes are outside his body frame. That's what the elite guys do. And on the flip side, the other guy I want to have a conversation about is because I'm trying to figure out what I think of him is Kyler Murray, because, he has, I think Kyler Murray to me, because everyone cares about quarterback rankings. It's like, to me, he's in that tier of quarterback 12 to 16. And I'm not going to get into names right now because I'd have to think it in my head, but somewhere in there. But I say that you can win a Super Bowl with him. And I think that his highs are truly S tier. But then there's times where he's throwing it like pissed off, where he throws it too early, or he gets in creation mode where he does have gamer rage though, especially at his Marvin Harrison Jr. He does have gamer rage though. Like he does truly just go, screw this, Leroy Jenkins. I'm throwing this, And I thought that he had stretches this season where I was like, man, you're looking real good. Like this is like, I might have to like think of you as a higher tier. But now I'm like, I feel comfortable thinking of him this way. I just wanted to ask you what you kind of think of Kyler, because we've never really talked about Kyler. Chat a bunch, but what do you right now think of Kyler? Because this is where I think I have him slotted in that good tier. There's a lot of good quarterbacks right now, believe it or not. But there's just times where he's just leaving me wanting more. And maybe we get there next year, but I don't know if he can get there yet.
Well, what year is this? Like year 6 for him? He was
7. He got drafted.
He was 2020, 2019, something like that. So there's a degree of like, this is probably just what he is to this, because he's played enough games in the NFL where you can see the trends on him. But man, I struggle to make these lists sometimes, but I just struggle to see a world where where Kyler falls outside like 10 to me, like QB 10 feels appropriate to him, because I know he'll have moments like he had this weekend, but the highs are like legitimate MVP caliber stuff. Because we've even when Cliff was in over in Arizona, like the funny thing was about like the 9, the first 8 games versus the last 8 games are 9-8, however you split it up. With Cliff was like, some of those first 9 games was some of the most like spectacular, like dazzling quarterback play that you would see, and he would do it for 9 games in a row before it would. He played a game
at Cleveland and then against the Rams where he had some of the best quarterbacks play you'll ever watch. Yeah,
right.
I totally agree with that.
It's insane, and then he'll just have a stinker. But with him, it's like one bad play rolls into another bad play, rolls into another bad play. And next thing you know, like we've spent 4 drives on this, we're just all out of whack and the game's starting to slip away. Luckily, the defense, I think, has been will hold up through some of those moments. But but like you still have a quarterback that is prone to just kind of, I feel like spiraling is a strong word, but like spiraling a little bit during the course of a game.
Streaky.
And he's streaky. That's a much more appropriate term for what I was trying to say.
Like when I say quarterback 12 to 16, that's like quarterback 12 is kind of what I'm thinking with him. But it's like, all right, he drops off and lowers down. And like, you just look, this is his most efficient season. Like this is the best he played quarterback. And that's why I'm like, all right, maybe we get one more off season. And then he gets a little more protection. They add layers to this offense. We'll see what it becomes. But I'm still very bullish on the Cardinals. Anyone that's listening to this freaking pod knows that. But this, how they ended this season, it's like, yeah, you guys just need a few more bullets. Like you just need a couple more sharp teeth, and then we'll see. But good bones and good structure. And same with the Rams, who are really coming on. I want to talk about more of them later this week. All right, we're going to take our first break and then get into an AFC playoff race that it's gotten a little bit weird the last few days.
Introducing Daily Draw, the latest free-to-play game from Yahoo Sports. Daily Draw gives you a pack of 6 prediction cards every day based on the day's biggest sporting event. Download or update the Yahoo Sports app on the Apple App Store or Google Play and join the action with Daily Draw today.
All right, another one of those Saturday games we're going to get into. It's not Chargers, Patriots. That was terrible. We're going to get into actually an entertaining game. Broncos, Bengals. Bengals pulled off the victory in overtime, kept their playoff hopes alive. They won 30-24. Kind of played a game of no, you take it. No, you take it at the end of the game. No one wanted to close it out. Joe Burrow was phenomenal. I mean, shoot, follow anyone on social media, they've said it, but 39-49, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. T. Higgins just gave Riley Moss hell throughout the day. Patrick Surtain, oh my God, T. Higgins went 11 for 131, 3 touchdowns, and said, "Hey, I'm a free agent, guys." Jamar Chase, 9 catches, 102 yards. Him and Surtain had a fun battle throughout the day. They had cool matchup stuff there. Bo Nix finished with 3 touchdowns. Marvin Mims, also the longest pass of the entire season by any quarterback. I think he threw it 67 yards to Marvin Mims, who I'm loving. And I think Sean Payton is loving right now. And Cam Sutton had a touchdown as well. But yeah, just a pretty wonky, entertaining game. Burrow stepped up against a really good Broncos defense and kept the door alive for their playoff chances with the Colts loss. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But what'd you think about this game on Saturday, Chuck?
Man, the Bo Nix pass. When that thing was in the air, I was like, "Oh my God!" Did he just throw this like out the back of the end zone? Launched it. But they got it in on the back of the end zone. It was maybe a little too close for like how much separation he had and how long he had the separation. But hey, fair play. Touchdown's a touchdown. I was really impressed again with the Bengals offense. Like I don't know like what actual chance they have to get in, because Kansas City is playing Denver next week, right? And yeah, they've already said they're going to be sitting their starters. So that's going to be tough because they need Denver to lose that game and they need to win. But I would love to see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins get into the playoffs right now. One, because the defense still sucks. So you're guaranteed. The game's
going to be a freaking shootout. It's going to be awesome.
Fun. Right. Because this is one of the best. This is one of the best defenses in the league. And Joe Burrow, they went 60% drop back success rate for the game, 2.7 points per drive. I mean, they kind of were just like, and this is what we were talking about before the game when I was like, it's fun to just see like a team that has this many good players, like potential Hall of Famers in their prime with like their backs against the wall. And they're like, okay, we got to have it. And they've kind of just like powered through some really crappy defensive play to get to this point where they still have a chance to save their season if they could win, this week and the Broncos lose. But man, I really want to see them get to the playoffs. Joe Burrow is just playing out of his mind. Like I don't agree, but I understand where people who are saying he should be the MVP are coming from, because
I understand the argument.
Right, I understand the argument.
I wouldn't do the vote. I understand the argument though. Yes.
You only won 9 games, so all right, let's settle down here. All right. We gotta
have some standards.
Don't start off 0-3. The whole season matters. The whole season does matter. He's been so good that I think that I would be terrified to play them round 1. Even though I know we'll score on them, we know that they're going to score on us. And that's what these guys should do. They should be playing like this all the time. And hopefully next year they get some semblance of defense, because that's a team that can win the Super Bowl with their offense at least.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out who Burrow reminds me of. And I really do think it's Phillip Rivers, because it's just where it's that you kind of know what's coming and he still delivers the ball. Like it's still... All right, it's going to be a quick out route to Antonio Gates. It's 3rd and 7. We know what's happening. We know 8 yards to Antonio Gates. Like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, they're going to run this vertical play. He's going to check it down. He checked it down for another first. Like, he just always has the answer, and he's such a cerebral guy. I don't want to say he's not the only cerebral quarterback in the league, but I think this is the one I felt. This is the season where I feel like everything has come together for him. He's not taking sacks as much as he did early in his career. He's not just heaving up go balls. He is very selective when he pushes the ball, but you always can tell it's like he knows when he's doing it. Like it's selective in a way that it's like, no, now is the time. Like he's pressing that button right at the right time, as opposed to just like, 1 out of 3 will hit. So Jamar's down there somewhere. Like everything feels methodical. Like every choice he makes feels right. And I just have really enjoyed watching him play this season. I feel like now it's kind of like, oh, I get it. You know, like with him, where I really feel like he's matched some of the hype that I've always thought Burrow was very good, but I've thought some people talked about him in kind of mythological ways, like kind of like, all right, guys, all right, chill. This is the time. This is the season where I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. No, this is what you guys were talking about. And I actually believe it now when I watch him. I think he's just been fantastic. So like you said, I kind of wish they would make it, but do think the Broncos against the Chiefs backups is a little too tough to ask for, but they give themselves a chance. The Browns lost. They give themselves a little bit more. That would have actually been a little more entertaining, but they played DTR and benched everybody. And so, yeah, we knew what happened there. But also why that door stayed open and the Broncos basically shut their door is the Colts lost to the Giants.
Boo!
Boo is right. The Giants dropped a 40 burger on the Colts, 45-33. The Giants want the number 1 pick and they dropped a 40 burger. Drew Lock is not going to get a game ball this week, but Drew Lock, 17-23, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. Hopefully you had him in fantasy. Tyrone Tracy, Malik Neighbors went off 7 for 171, 2 touchdowns. Wendell Robinson actually came through in the clutch at the end of the game. He had a drop and then made a nice, beautiful diving catch with the shortest receiver arms in the league. The Colts were just, I don't know what their defense had been playing well, and now all of a sudden they don't, and the offense let them get to this lead. You know, they gave up a kick return to Amir Smith-Marset. It's end of the season when Amir Smith-Marset is getting his highlights. I know it's the end of the season when I get tagged for Amir Smith-Marset and Ben Skoranek for the Steelers, and people tag me and say they had a good play because that's all you're checking out there. But what do you think of the Colts right now? That's all I care about. That's all I want to ask you, Chuck. Is what message do you want to give Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, and the rest of this Colts franchise?
How dare you? How dare you let this happen? Like, seriously, how do you let Drew Lock score 45 points on you
in a must-win game?
In a must-win game, this Giants team were 8-point underdogs to a team last week that was starting a rookie quarterback for the first time. And they got demolished. How do you lose 45-33 to a team this bad? Like a team that their fans are not happy with this. They were hoping to lose this game and get the number 1 pick. You need to win. You need to win a game to keep your season alive. After you threw away for the most part, you threw away your playoff chances, like by tossing the ball out of bounds or throwing it. On a double reverse. Double reverse.
Yeah. Which bad play are we talking about? Which bad play
versus the Denver game? You already threw it away then. But you think, like, with the small hope you have, you come in and take this, I don't know, like a little bit more seriously. And then because the funny thing was over the course of the day, like, it wasn't just our group chat. It was various people texting me and other group chats all throughout the day, just screenshots of Drew Lock stats as the game progressed. People are like, what? He's like 8 of 9, 160 yards, 3 touchdowns.
First note I wrote of the entire day in my Google Doc was Drew Lock stats.
Yes, I was like, and I was like, I don't know what to say besides this is a really, really sad, embarrassing performance for the Colts. Like they really need to like actually think about what the future is for this, because how can you possibly run things back after this is how your season ends with the last couple of weeks that they've had? That's just, it's no good. You gotta look yourself in the mirror.
The Jonathan Taylor's drop ball is all I can think about after that Broncos loss, or after the Broncos lost on Saturday, because I was like, well, you guys could have had a real chance. And I looked up, and the first stat I noticed of the day was Drew Lock started 7 for 8 for 153 yards and 3 touchdowns. I was like, clickety clack, looked it up. I looked up the box score. I was like, oh, that was real. That wasn't just like a season number on something. That's how we started this game. And I wrote like embarrassing from the Colts, and then they started making a comeback, and I was like, oh, okay, nice catch. Alec Pierce had a dunk TD, had a nice deep ball. Okay, they look like they're coming back. And then I was like, no, this is embarrassing. Not what you needed from the Colts. Obviously, they needed that game against the Broncos, which they actually had some real good stretches, especially on defense. And last week had a really good first half against the Titans, and then let them come back. And then now this, and this is just like, come on, this isn't like good vibes at all. This isn't what you want to build on. You want to build on upset wins at the end. The Cardinals last year went in and upset the Eagles at the end of the season. That's what the growing teams do. you get those kind of like real hard fought wins at the end of the season. This is just not it. But yeah, the Giants last year got Tommy DeVito out of Drake May. This year, they're getting Drew locked. Maybe, now they have to start looking at trade capital, which I'm just like, Giants fans are screaming right now. Patriots now in the driver's seat, or I guess it's the conductor seat in the caboose for the number 1 pick. Whew. Yeah. How the mighty have fallen from those Super Bowls.
Seriously.
That's what
how everyone has fallen this season. The goddamn 4-12, that gets you the 9th pick right now. That's awful.
Oh, I know. And this is the worst draft. This is just, I'm going to say the worst draft, but it's not a great draft. I'll just say that right now. Well, our colleague Charles Robinson said their teams have like 7 blue chippers, and that made me feel better. I think I only have 8. So it's not a great draft.
But you know how, like, the reason why I feel like I know it's not a good draft is because, like, if you're a fan of one of these teams at the end of the season, like, do you really even care like what your draft pick is right now? I mean,
right.
If I'm a Raiders fan, am I losing sleep?
People aren't doing like screenshots of all these players, or jersey grabs of all these players. Like no one cares.
If I'm a Raiders fan, am I losing my mind that like we've won the last 2 games, now we have the 8th pick? Like we could probably find the same guy we could find 8 and we can 1 this year. Right. Well, maybe not 8, maybe not better. 8, but still, because Travis Hunter's pretty good.
I get what you mean.
Pretty good. But still.
He's actually new. He's one of those blue chippers. He's actually a needle mover. More disappointment from the Colts. I should say Flacco started instead of Anthony Richardson. As soon as I saw that, like all of a sudden Richards came up with soreness, and was it back and ankle?
Something like that.
Oh God. I mean, because they ran the crap out of him last week. I mean, they ran the ball really well, but it's just it's such a young team, but it just feels like I don't know. I thought there'd just be more stretches of like real promise. And it just feels like I'm just always frustrated watching them. Now they catch the ball finally, and then they just have other moments of frustration. But anyways, what?
I just looked at the Giants average 13.4 yards per net yards per pass attempt. So like sacks included, 13.4 yards per pass attempt. That's just so bad. So bad.
A quarterback that even the Falcons defense may look silly.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, they 2 pick sixes last week. Come on.
Tip of the cap. Way to go, Gus Bradley. Way to go there. All right. We're going to take our last break, and we'll come back with Saquon thoughts hitting 2,000 and some game balls for week 17. Last game for the 5th quarter was an NFC East battle that usually is a little more entertaining than having 2 backups with Cooper Rush and Kenny Pickett, which turned into Tanner McKee. But the Eagles dropped also another 40-burger. How many 40-burgers were there, did you say before the show? 5?
5 this week. Yep. 5 teams scored over 40 points.
It's holiday season, packing on the calories. But yeah, Eagles 41, Cowboys 7. Cooper Rush got a pick 6 early. But yeah, Saquon went nuts. I believe the Eagles ran the ball 16 of 20 plays to start the second half. I think it was 8. I think at one point it was 14 of 16 when I looked it up, but they just pounded it. He most rushes that he's had on the entire season in a single game, Saquon, which they should have done. I mean, that makes total sense. You're starting Kenny Pickett against Micah Parsons. That's what I would be doing too. Saquon Barkley, 31 carries, 167 yards. Devontae Smith had a great day, 120 yards, 2 tutties. AJ Brown, 36 yards and a touchdown. Tanner McKee, no matter who the quarterback was, they knew what the formula was. Hand the ball off and then find our 2 really good receivers and chuck it up to them. And it's a good formula. It's a really good one, especially when you have that defense and that offensive line. Whatever about the Cowboys. They're there, barely there. Yeah. Saquon's CD was out. It was just like, whatever. Saquon has 101 yards to beat Eric Dickerson for the single season record. Pretty cool that he hit 2016 games. I did like that. What did you think of this game, Chuck? Just kind of wanted to list off some stats, I feel like.
I thought nothing about this game. Shout out to Rico Dowdle. He put in some work for me today in the fantasy championship, which I think I'm going to close out.
They've actually put together some run games lately. Rico's actually had some nice moments. And also enough of Big Dom. I've seen enough of Big Dom. I don't need any more Big Dom. We know too much about Big Dom. There's t-shirts about Big Dom.
You have to go send the head of security,
which is like the ball boy's job.
Right.
Like he's in the back out of interviews. Enough of Big Dom. Like
the head of security,
low key.
The head of security is going to get a ball out the stands. Come on now. Come on.
No, I know, and that never happens. I can assure you this. I've been around football teams my entire life. That's a ball boy job. I used to have to do that as a high schooler and get the ball back for it. And 99.9% of the time, the fans toss it back because they go, okay, I don't want to get in trouble. And that guy was like, oh, I'm an Eagles fan. But why did the head of security have to drift on over there? Also, Tanner McKee, better than Kenny Pickett. I can say that without a doubt. Seen it in the preseason, seen it in those moments. I actually like McKee a lot. I think he's an interesting guy. It's a guy got to keep an eye on down the road. But yeah, that was it for that game. Eagles took care of business. Now it is time to wrap up the fifth quarter with game balls for week 17.
Doctor, is he going to make it?
I'm sorry. He's got that dog in him.
All right, Charles, who are you giving your game ball to for week 17?
I am giving my game ball to Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. He had 16 dropbacks for 165 total yards, or 165, net passing yards. He had 4 carries for 87 yards, 3 touchdowns combined. So if you kind of counted, he didn't actually touch the ball all that much, including the sack. He had 16 dropbacks plus 4 carries, so he touched the ball about 20 times. He averaged 12.6 yards every time he touched the ball and 3 touchdowns. Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's like a Louisville Heisman Trophy winning stat line, where he gets benched in the middle of the third quarter. Yeah.
Yeah. He had
to come out of the game middle of the third quarter.
He had a QBR of 99.8 this weekend. It's pretty.
He did actually?
Yeah. Yeah. 99.8 QBR. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that high. I've seen some 98s and 99s. 99.8's up there. No, that's a good one. I mean, the MVP conversation, I'm sure, is going to be exhausting this week, but there's some worthy candidates, which I think is fun. They're like, whatever. Mike
Penix just threw a pick.
Oh, did he start? Oh, yeah, we got to get to that game. All right. My game balls for week 17. Sam Darnold, already talked about him, but I also want to give another one. Baker Mayfield and Liam Cohen. The Bucs put on a clinic against the Panthers today, no matter what they did, what Baker did, which receiver was catching the ball, screens, Bucky Irving went off. Love Bucky Irving. I'm a big fan of his game, but just hope he holds up long term, but love him as a back. Had to give a shout out to Baker with his 5 touchdowns. Thought the Bucs just looked really good against the Panthers team that beat the Cardinals last week. So, they can do it. But I mean, I thought their defense stepped up after that first drive that Bryce Young had. But yeah, Liam Cohen, beautiful job. He's done an awesome job all season, deserves the interviews that he's going to get. The Bucs offensive line is in contendership for the best offensive line in the league right now. You and I have talked about it, but they're fantastic across the board. So Baker, Liam Cohen, Bucs live in week 18, but I have to figure out what happens with this Falcons Commanders game as we're watching right now. That's it for the fifth quarter in week 17. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. That's Charles McDonald, Mr. Verts. You can find him at 4Verts. Make sure to send your mailbag questions to football301mailbag@yahoosports.com or leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and jump the line. Bunch of good ones. I saw a couple in there. Can't wait to get to those. You guys have been sending some really good questions that me and Chuck have been hitting up. Been a lot of fun. But yeah, send those emails, send those reviews, subscribe to us, follow us. Like I said, rate us, watch us on YouTube, Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. Check out Football 301, whole bunch of great stuff on there. Thanks to Brett and Stone behind the scenes for all that they do. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on the pod on Tuesday, me and Matt, and then we'll have the New Year's. But then we'll have week 18, and then we have the playoffs. But we'll talk to you guys then. Can't wait.